talking about serious things here. Hi, Paul
Right.
Sackett's Good News broadcast. I'm speaking to a resident nurse, Lisa Boucher, is it?
Boucher.
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 Boucher. All righty. Are you French?
Well, that would be my husband. I'm Italian.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm Italian and gypsy.
Italian gypsy. Okay.
Yes, right. I
All right.
know, right?
And a resident nurse, an RN,
That's
right, for
correct.
a long time, right?
That's correct.
And
I've
we
been a
just
nurse since 1994.
and you became an Italian gypsy nurse because of why?
Well, I went to nursing school after I got sober back in 1989. And, I had been in and out of college, Paul, for 10 years, got married and divorced in there very young, disaster. Then I got remarried like 3 years later. But I thought when I got sober, it dawned on me I've been in and out of college for 10 years and I really don't have a degree yet. And I had twins. Okay. So I have these twin little boys. And I thought, I really need to get something so that I can put food on the table for my children if this marriage doesn't work out, which, by the way, it did. We're still together. And 30 some years later, but I didn't know at the time what was going to happen. And I felt like I really needed to find something that was going to work with being a mom. And I knew that being a nurse, there was some flexibility there. And so that's pretty much what drove me to that profession. However, little did I know that it would add to the work that I'm doing now, because I've worked in emergency rooms and psych wards primarily over the past 26 years. And so you see a lot, and a lot of the addiction that we're talking about and alcoholism, so much of what rolls through the doors in any hospital. And I worked in a level 1 trauma center when I was an ER nurse. And that's when I really started to notice how much of what was coming through the doors was drug and alcohol related on the backside, even with, affluent elderly people that you think, oh, they're just sick. Well, no, a lot of their liver problems, heart problems, out of control diabetes, whatever, was due to uncontrolled alcoholism.
Whoa.
So,
And you wrote a book, Raising the Bottom, a good title, Making Mindful Choices in a Drinking Culture. All right.
right.
So give us some thoughts here in the book, and some thoughts in regard to how it can help. Well, who did you write this book for?
I wrote the book for people that are on the fence with, do I drink too much? Because I think there's a lot of people out there. We have a very boozy culture, and everything revolves around the drinks, the partying, and people are still very scared, or maybe that's not a good word. They're apprehensive to say they're sober or to turn down a drink. It's the only thing. People don't get questioned when they turn down sugar or if they turn down meat because maybe they're vegetarian. But people are still sometimes questioned when they turn down a cocktail. So why are we doing that to people when they're trying to make a healthy choice? It should be irrelevant whether someone drinks or not, just like it's irrelevant what you choose to eat. So I wanted to write Raising the Bottom because I had a very high bottom. My mother was an alcoholic. She too was a registered nurse, and she had a very low bottom. So when I noticed that things were getting out of control for me, I was able to stop. And so for years, I wrote fiction. And then my mother said, she used to call, she died in 2011, but she used to say, why don't you write about alcoholism? But there's a lot of legs to that stool. And I was like, well, what aspect do I want to touch on? And one day it hit me that I wanted to touch on, I'm crossing a street here. I wanted to touch on, we don't have to hit these low bottoms. We don't have to destroy our lives, destroy our children, destroy our health, because most people wait till they get to that point before they even consider that maybe they need help. And so I picked, there's 10 other people in the book, mostly women, there are a few men, but they have, these are nurses and doctors and people that own small businesses and people that are functioning. And most of us never assume that somebody who still lives in a beautiful home and has their car and a job can have a problem. So I wanted to show that, those are precisely the people I want to reach. Why do we have to wait till it gets so horrible, until so many things are destroyed before people say, yikes, I need to put on the brakes? So that's primarily who I wanted to reach, were the people that are out there drinking. Alcoholism is a progressive disease. So people tend to think unless they're drinking heavily every day, unless they wake up with the shakes or whatever, they can't have a problem. And that's not true. I got sober. I did not drink every day. I was usually the designated driver. I could walk out of the bar and leave a half a drink on the thing. Does that sound like an alcoholic? For most people, no, it does not. So those are, I quit. I probably could have had 10 or 15 years of more drinking, but I didn't want to do that. And, my sons, my twin boys, have never seen me take a drink. And they were raised vastly differently than would have they been had I kept drinking and put the whole family through a whole lot of drama that just didn't have to be.
Why did you stop?
Because I just knew in my gut that if I didn't stop, I could possibly or would most likely end up like my mother, who did hit a low bottom. And she spent 25 years going to doctors and psych wards and therapists and doing that whole gamut and never really getting the right kind of help. And they kept throwing medication at her and she got worse and worse and worse. And so growing up as a child, of an alcoholic parent, I've been immersed in alcoholism one way or another my entire life. I mean, my first husband was an alcoholic. Growing up with this alcoholic mother, my crazy Italian father was a rageaholic. So it was just a very dysfunctional upbringing. And I didn't want that to be my story. So I quit when most people would probably not have quit. But I quit because I had some knowledge of alcoholism by watching what my mother went through. And she did finally get sober. And she was 7 years sober when I stopped. So I knew, that things could escalate and get really bad, or I could stop, and I mitigated any sorts of awful damage and was just done with it. So that's why I quit. It was just time. It was time to make it so that I didn't have to go through what so many people choose to go through. Because I mean, it really boils down to, can we be honest with ourselves? And so if you can be honest with yourself, there's a lot of people that would say, you know what? Yeah, they do drink too much. And my whole point is, well, what are you waiting for? If you have that little voice inside that is telling you you drink too much, you probably do. So we have two choices. We can listen to it and we can address it, or we can continue on the path of heavy drinking while we're telling ourselves, oh, we're having fun. But is it really fun? And, as you get older, when you get into your 40s and 50s, you can drink pretty much with impunity through your 20s and 30s. Most people. I mean, I'm seeing more and more young people, though, in their late 30s, early 40s, who have already done severe liver damage from the alcohol and the party scene. So, it's not without consequences. And I just didn't want those kinds of consequences. I didn't want my children to be raised in the environment like I was, with a lot of chaos and uncertainty and fear. There's a lot of fear when you have a parent who drinks alcoholically.
I've heard that from friends that have that. In fact, they almost said that it's almost impossible scenario. It's
Well,
very,
it is, and
very stressful.
it's terrible, right? And it sets you up for a lot of issues in your adult life of, picking, like, look at that first husband, until I gravitated to not what was healthy for me, but something that was very comfortable, and that was chaos in that. So I had to fix myself before I could even hope to have a healthy life. Do you know what I'm saying? And pick
Yeah.
healthy people and have better relationships. I had a lot of work that I needed to do to heal that, just to heal myself from being raised the way I was, and I don't blame my parents. I think, my mother, she was a wonderful woman. And when she finally got sober, she went on to help so many people. I mean, it truly was amazing. But she went through a lot of horrible things. And a lot of that I do blame on the medical community. And I did a whole chapter in raising the bottom for doctors, nurses, and healthcare, because what was going on with my mother back in the 60s continues to happen today. I mean, we really have not come very far. People come in, they don't get pointed in the right direction toward recovery. They medicate them with all sorts of antidepressants. Some people they put on antipsychotics who are clearly not psychotic, and their lives continue to spiral the drain.
Yes, I do. Okay. Well, yeah, this is very, you know, I'll say, I think this was meant to be. I'll tell you what I think is meant to be. This is one of the most creative visual interviews with that background, with you walking with a happy, nice smile and a pretty woman, and the sky that is just like a halo over your head, that is saying that what you're saying is so important for you to share, because you're very passionate about this, and you're very passionate, I imagined, about being a nurse, which is I think is one of the highest uh, high, deserves Oscars of the,
Well, yeah.
I'm into that, because I've been in a hospital bed, and I know what that means to have a nice nurse by your side. So this is really a beautiful thing, and I thank you for sharing your own personal journey here to help others. It's good news, and I'm into good news.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
It's really good. Let me ask you, what is peace for you? Because I'm involved into the world peace movement.
Peace for me is a quiet mind, Paul. There is no peace if we do not have a quiet mind. So it doesn't matter where I am. It's not based on my environment. It's not based on who I'm with. It's based on my own thoughts. I mean, can you master your own thoughts and have peace in the midst of chaos? That to me is peace, when we can detach from things that we cannot control. And I learned all of that in recovery. And it's it cuts anxiety. People run around screaming how anxious and depressed they are. But if we can let go of the things that we can't control, if we can have a quiet mind and a peaceful heart, that is joy right there. That is joy.
Thank you. Your joy for me. This is joy, because this is the real thing. And the real thing is, I love, everybody loves Raymond. I love television. I love all these things. And they teach you a lot too. But to hear it from somebody that's the real thing and not the script writer and in life, and or the author on a front page of a newspaper. Hopefully, I wish I had the audience of those big media, because your message is really, really an important one. And so one day we will, and that'll be my gratification, because what you have to share is I put under the you get an Oscar. All right.
Well, thank you. Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao. Have a
Ciao,
great
ciao.
day.